Hello, and a very pleasant good day to you wherever you may be. Well, today we are
Hello.
enjoying the baseball season. As you can see, I have my
Yes.
Rays t-shirt on. Gabriel has his new Ken Griffey Jr. t-shirt on.
Yes.
But we're not talking about baseball today. We are knee deep in the conference finals for the NBA. So we're actually going to talk a little NBA today. And what do we have, Gabriel?
So we're gonna talk about. Well, we're gonna do a list. We're gonna do a list of the top 10 NBA players of all time. I'm actually very surprised that we've never done this before on this channel.
Yeah, me too, actually.
So, basically, what we did for this is we took my top 10 players of all time and his top 10 players of all time and kind of combined them. There were a lot of disagreements on this one, included mostly in the bottom like 4 or 5 guys. So
we'll talk about that when we get to them.
yes, so we got top 10 and then 3 honorable mentions, and I'm gonna get it started with the first honorable mention, and that is Oscar Robertson. The Big O was only a one-time champion, which was a little bit of a disappointment considering how good he was in the regular season with the Kings in the 1960s. Of course, he averaged over a 30-point triple-double, the first player to ever do that, and he was an amazing all-around player. He wasn't really the best shooter. He wasn't very efficient, but he basically did everything well, so he's going to be an honorable mention.
To put it in perspective, when we looked at his stats, I think he shot 48% in the regular season all time and 46% in the playoffs,
which is all right.
Yeah, I mean, considering that he was only like 6'3", that's pretty good. But yeah, all right. So our second honorable mention is Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant, we felt like could have been in the top 10. He's definitely one of the most dangerous scorers of all time.
Yes.
But he fell back a little bit because of his defense, and he also fell back, honestly, a little bit because he never kind of led a team to a championship. He always had one or two other superstars on the teams that he was on that he was the most successful with, like the Warriors in the late teens.
Yes.
So we really felt like he was just outside the top 10 because of those two things.
Yes. Now, for the third honorable mention, Kevin Durant's teammate, Stephen Curry. While many people think Steph is the best point guard of all time, a top 10 player, I still think that he is not past Magic Johnson yet. I think he is outside of the top 10. So he is obviously the best shooter of all time, 4-time champion, although 2 of those titles did come with Kevin Durant, who was probably the second or third best player in the league at that point, which is just cheating. So, I mean, Steph Curry, obviously 2-time MVP, amazing scorer. His defense is not very good. That's why he was left off this list. So, yes, Stephen Curry, honorable mention. Now we'll get into the top 10.
Yes. And kicking it off with number 10, it's Kobe. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, no. Kobe's in the top 5. Kobe's in the top 3 all time. Well, okay, Kobe took a lot of shots in his career. He missed a lot of shots, too, in his career. Yes, he won 5 titles, but with 3 of those, he had Shaq, one of the most dominant big men of all time. He also had a number of other really good players with him. So we felt like if he had been a little bit more of an efficient shooter and perhaps a bit better on the defensive side, that he could have definitely moved up into the top 5. I think he would have moved up into the top 5. But as it is, so Kobe averaged 25 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, and 4.7 assists for his career. He is an 18-time All-Star. Won, of course, 5 championships, as we said. 2-time scoring champ, including that one season, I think it was 05-06, where he averaged over 35 a game and had his 81-point explosion. 15-time All-NBA, 12-time defensive NBA, and 1-time MVP. 2-time Finals MVP as well. So he did a ton, and we're not trying to take anything away from Kobe here. I think we simply wanted to see Kobe pass the ball a little bit more, not take shots against double and triple teams, and just be a bit more of an efficient shooter. So the things that we really looked at with this list, of course, were not only just points per game, but rebounding, assists, how good of a passer were you, how good of a teammate were you, how successful were the teams that you were on, what was the level of competition that you played against. And I hate to say this, but Kobe does lose just a little bit because he only played against Michael for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, and it was right at the beginning of his career, and in Kobe's peak, yeah, LeBron was in the league and everything else, but he wasn't playing against Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so that's how we put Kobe in there at number 10.
So, number 9. This is one of our first disagreements. Number 9 is Mr. Fundamental, Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, a very boring player, but he was just an amazing player. He pretty much did everything well. In his career, he averaged 19 points, 10.8 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. He also averaged over 2 blocks per game, so he was a great defensive player. He was a 15-time All-Star. He won 5 titles with the San Antonio Spurs, and in three of those titles, he was Finals MVP. 15-time All-NBA, 15-time All-Defensive. He won Rookie of the Year and was a 2-time MVP. I believe he won it back-to-back in like 02, 03, and 03, 04. So he wasn't a scorer, but he was a great passer for a big man. Great defender, amazing playoff performer, just did it all with the Spurs. And also played against some really good teams, especially in the Western Conference. He had to play against the Kobe and Shaq Lakers. Then he later had to play against the just Kobe Lakers. Yeah. Well, he also had to play against Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming in the Rockets. So, yeah, he had some competition. So Tim Duncan is the 9th best player of all time. He didn't even have him in his honorable mentions.
I would have had him at about number 14.
Right.
As I said, Gabriel, I think originally had him at what, number 7?
Number 7.
Okay, I would have had him right on the outside of my honorable mentions, probably like in the 14 range, as I said. So yeah, no, and I look at it as he was a great player, but he was part of a great team that was exceptionally well coached, and he had a lot of other really good players around him. So I just saw him as just maybe a step below some of these other guys, but that's fine.
Yes.
We're not going to say whether we think he's the greatest power forward of all time because we don't want to give away the rest of our list.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, number 8, this was also a big disagreement because I had this guy actually slightly higher.
Mm-hmm.
Gabriel did not have this guy on his list either. So, we compromised on Tim Duncan and this guy. And number 8 is Bill Russell. And I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, well, Bill Russell, he couldn't score. All he did was, rebound and play defense. And he was not a great shooter. There's no doubt about that. But he did average 15 points a game for his career. He averaged 23 rebounds a game for his entire career. 23 rebounds a game. That's insane. And yes, rebounds were counted a little bit differently back then. But anyway, 22 and a half rebounds if we're, being exact here. But I rounded up to 23. 4.3 assists, 12-time All-Star. Of course, he's an 11-time champion, which in my mind is what brought him a little farther up on this list. He was the greatest winner in the history of American sports.
Yeah. Wow.
So, he has to be somewhere here. 4-time rebound champ, 11-time All-NBA, and he's a 5-time MVP.
Did he deserve all of them? No. I mean, he
maybe not.
He beat Wilt Chamberlain easily in the year that Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points per game.
Okay, so he's a 4-time MVP.
Yes.
All right, fine.
Probably didn't.
So anyway,
deserve all
but I'm not arguing that he should be higher on this list. I was just arguing that he should be somewhere in the top 10. All right, with numbers like that. Also keep in mind that in Bill Russell's day, block shots were not counted as a regular stat. And I was joking with Gabriel earlier that he averaged like nine blocks a game for his career, which he did not.
No.
But it would have been really interesting to see how many blocks he really would have had. I think he would have had some years where he averaged like 3 or 4 blocks a game.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. So great defender, great leader, great winner. So
yes.
Who is our number 7?
Gabriel? So number 7, another center. I think that this guy is just slightly above Bill Russell.
Another slight disagreement here. Not as big as the last couple, but a slight disagreement.
I had this guy in my borderline top 10, and we kind of had to move people around. I think he had him as an honorable mention.
I did.
But we kind of moved him up a little bit after looking at his stats and awards. This is Hakeem Olajuwon, the Dream. He had probably the best footwork of all time in the NBA. Of course, he had the Dream Shake, and in his career, he averaged 21.8 points, 11.1 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. Also with 1.7 steals and 3.1 blocks. Probably the best defender of all time, and he was just very athletic for someone who was 7 feet tall. And he was a 12-time All-Star, led the league in rebounds twice, led the league in blocks 3 times. He was a two-time champion back-to-back in 94, 95, and then 93, 94 when Michael was over playing baseball. And he was a 12-time All-NBA, 9-time All-Defensive, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, 2 Finals MVPs, and won 1 regular season MVP. Now, reason I put Hakeem over Bill Russell just on my list is, one, lack of competition for Bill Russell. He was playing against like 6'5" centers, and then Hakeem was in a very physical era.
I can't argue with that.
And then also much better scorer, and I mean probably a better defender, even though Bill Russell, they weren't counting his blocks and steals back then, but I would just say Hakeem's better all around.
All right.
Yes, that was number 7. Number 6.
Number 6, and this is, so the top of the list is where Gabriel and I really started to agree.
Yes.
We actually both have this guy at number 6, and this is the hick from French Lick. It's Larry Bird. Hard to argue Larry's stats. He had a couple of seasons where he actually came close to averaging a triple-double in his career. For his career, though, 24.3 points per game, 10 rebounds a game for his entire career, and 6.3 assists. And for somebody that was built like him, that didn't really like hit the gym, obviously, or work out that much. I mean, he kind of looked, he was tall, he was 6'9", but he kind of just looked like an average guy. For him to average 10 rebounds a game was just amazing. 12-time All-Star, 3-time NBA champion, 10-time All-NBA, Rookie of the Year. Of course, he very famously beat Magic Johnson in the 79-80 season for Rookie of the Year, although Magic ended up winning the title that year with the Lakers.
Yeah.
3-time MVP and 3-time Defensive Player of the Year and 2-time Finals MVP. So Larry accomplished just about everything. He would routinely in the playoffs have like 30-point, 10 rebound, 8 assist kind of games.
Yes.
In an era where, and I realize those are a little bit more common now, but this is in an era where you just didn't see things like that. People were not putting up near triple doubles in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And of course, for the time, he was perhaps the greatest shooter of the early and mid 80s.
One of the best shooters of all time, probably.
Yep. So, Larry Bird, number 6. Gabriel,
number 5. Kicking off the top 5, there was a disagreement between us, between this guy and the guy at 4, but I feel like this guy the competition he played against was much lower than the other guy. At number 4, this is Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain, of course, one of the most dominant players of all time, probably the best statistical player of all time, even though he played in a weak era.
I don't think you could argue that.
Yeah. He averaged 30.1 points a game, which is tied for the most points averaged in a career. 22.9 rebounds, which is the most rebounds averaged in a career. And also averaged 4.4 assists as he stepped up as more of a passer in the later part of his career. And he was a 13-time All-Star, 2-time NBA champion, which is a little underwhelming for a guy who was that good in the regular season.
Yeah.
He was a 7-time scoring champ, led the league in rebounds 11 times. He also led the league in assists 1 time with the 76ers. I think it was the year they won the title. So he took a step back in scoring to kind of be more of a team player, which ended up helping his teams. He was also 10-time All-NBA, won 4 MVPs, probably should have been 5 or 6, 1 Rookie of the Year, and 1 Finals MVP. So Wilt Chamberlain, of course, it's so weird to look at his career. It's kind of a mystery how his teams were worse when he was better, and then they slowly got better as he was worse. So.
Yeah, but and as Gabriel and I were talking about this earlier, kind of something similar with Michael Jordan. Michael's stats didn't take a huge step back, but they definitely took a step back in the early 90s. He wasn't averaging, 33 to 35 a game like he was in the late 80s. He had to give the ball up more and make his team better to win championships.
Yes.
So that's kind of what happened to Will. All right, so at number 4, and again, Gabriel and I had a slight disagreement. I had this guy at number 5 behind Wilt, but we agreed to put him at number 4. I think a lot of it was the level of competition and the fact that he played against Larry Bird and Michael Jordan. Hint, hint. Number 4, Magic Johnson. So not only what he did in the regular season, where he averaged 19.5 points, 7 rebounds, and 11.2 assists per game for his entire career. That is the highest of all time. Also averaged 2 steals per game, 12-time All-Star, of course. He was a 5-time NBA champion, including an unbelievable performance in Game 6 of the 1980 Finals, where he played center when Kareem was injured, and he ended up with, I think, like 43 points and 16 rebounds or some crazy game. I mean, it was just insane, completely playing out of position. Let's see, 4-time assist champ, 2 times the steals leader, 10-time All-NBA, 3-time MVP, 3-time Finals MVP. Magic did it all, but his numbers, his points per game and rebounds are kind of like going when you just look at it from a regular season standpoint. But look at his playoff totals too. Magic played in, I think, 190 playoff games in his career, and he had entire playoff seasons where the Lakers went deep in, they would win a title or they'd make it to the finals, where he would average like 22 points and 15 assists a game for the entire playoffs. I mean, that is nuts.
Yeah.
Over the course of like 15 or 16 or even sometimes close to 20 games, averaging 15 assists through the playoffs. So Magic could do it all. Definitely one of the greatest passers of all time. Very dangerous scorer, and led that great Lakers offense of the early and mid 80s. Gabriel, who's our number 3?
So number 3, we really didn't disagree with.
Nope.
We really didn't disagree at all.
We both had this guy at number 3.
Yes. Without a doubt, the best center of all time. This is Magic Johnson's teammate Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, Kareem is basically a combination of everything that you find from all these other great centers. With Shaq, you find the dominance. He was very dominant. With Hakeem, you find the great defense. He was also a great defender. With Bill Russell, you find the winning. He won 6 championships. And then with Hakeem, you find like the famous Dream Shake. With him, you find the Sky Hook, which is probably the most unstoppable move in NBA history. So in his career, he averaged 24.6 points, 11.2 rebounds, 3.6 assists, and 2.6 blocks. A 19-time All-Star, which I believe is tied with LeBron James for the most All-Star appearances in a career. 6-time champion, 2-time scoring champ, 1-time rebound champ, 4-time blocks champ, and he was a 15-time All-NBA, 11-time All-Defensive, won Rookie of the Year, and he won 6 MVPs, which is the most of all time, and he also won 2 Finals MVPs. So young Kareem was one of the best players of all time, and then he got traded to the Lakers, and he really didn't win until they kind of got a little better. So that is a little bit of a downfall for Kareem. He couldn't really win too much without legendary players on his team. So. Oscar Robertson and Magic Johnson.
Yeah, but still, I think putting him at number 3, Gabriel and I both agreed on this. If you look early in his career, his regular season averages like 34 and 15, pretty regularly. He was just so dominant in his young days with the Bucks. Remember too that when he started playing with Magic with the Lakers, Kareem was already into his 30s, and he played until he was, I think, basically 40 years old. In his last season in '88 when he retired, and by that point he really wasn't getting a lot of playing time. He was older, he was slower, he had injury issues, so those last few years with him actually brought down his career averages a bit.
He played for a little too long.
Yep. Okay, here's where the controversy begins, the real controversy, because at number 2 it's Michael Jordan. Yeah, that's right, he's not number 1. So Michael, of course, what can be said about him that hasn't already been said? What can be said about him that Michael hasn't already said? You guys probably already know most of this, but he did average over 30 points per game for his career at 30.1, 6.2 rebounds, 5.3 assists per game, averaged over 2 steals per game, which is very impressive. 14-time All-Star, of course, 6-time champion, never lost in the finals, and I know a lot of you are going to bring that up. 10-time scoring champ, 3 times led the NBA in steals, 11-time All-NBA, 9-time All-Defensive NBA, was Rookie of the Year, was a 1-time Defensive Player of the Year in 1988, where he also led the league in scoring and was MVP, and 5-time MVP and 6-time Finals MVP. So hard to beat that, yes. And we'll probably spend more time in the next few minutes talking about why he's not number 1 than anything else. But it's hard to argue, I think, between Michael and the player who all of you are now know that we put at number one. But the one thing that we felt was different is that the player that we put at number one is frankly a better rebounder and a better passer than Michael.
And they're pretty similar defensively. They're
Yes.
both amazing defenders.
Yep. So we also felt like at this point in their careers, Michael wasn't playing when he was 38 years old, and the gentleman that we put at number one is.
Yeah.
So
and playing at a very high level.
Michael came back and played when he was 39 and 40 and still played really well, but I don't think anybody would say that he was the same player that he was in his prime.
So.
All right. So
now.
Number one.
I wonder who it could be. Yeah, it's LeBron James. Okay, I said it. So number one is LeBron James. I know you guys are either going to love us and agree with us, or you're not going to love us and you're going to disagree with us. Now, hear me out. LeBron James had much, much better competition in the finals than Michael Jordan.
That was another deciding factor.
People always bring up his finals record. Oh, he's 4-6. How can someone who has a losing record in the finals be the greatest player of all time? Well, here's a little rundown. In his first season, he made not in his rookie season, but his first season going to the finals, he basically carried a Cavs team with a bunch of role players to the finals, and then they faced the San Antonio Spurs with prime Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili. So it's not really that fair. And then he won 2 out of 4 finals with the Heat. He probably should have won more than 2 with the Heat. That was a little partly his fault. He didn't play very well.
They should have won at least 3.
Yeah, and the last one against the Spurs, that Spurs team was probably an even better team than the Heat at that point.
Yeah.
Again, and then the next year in 2014-15, he went back to the Cavaliers. Kyrie got injured, so he didn't have his second best player on the team for that series, and he faced Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. That's a little hard to beat. Then, of course, the season after that, he won in 7 games. 3-1 comeback, his famous block in Game 7. And then the next 2 years, Kevin Durant, who was the second or third best player of the league, went to the Warriors, and they could not be stopped. LeBron and Kyrie could not do it. Well, I think Kyrie again got injured in the finals in 16-17, which was not fair. And then 17-18, Kyrie wasn't even on the team, so LeBron basically carried that Cavs team against probably the second greatest team of all time. And yeah, it's a little hard to beat that team.
So I think you could make an argument, though, and I have not heard this argument made about LeBron versus MJ, that 2 of LeBron's teams, the Heat team that he had, or the Cavs team that he was on in the second iteration of the Cavs in the mid 20 teens, would have also gone 6-0 against the teams that Michael played in the finals.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
So, when you look, and I'm not taking anything away from the Jazz of the 90s or the Seattle Supersonics or, the Phoenix Suns or the Portland Trailblazers or the LA Lakers of 91, but the Lakers were a shadow of the team that they had been at that point. Magic was in his last full season, of course, before he made his famous HIV announcement and had to retire. Only to come back for just a little bit in 96. But the competition was just completely different. I mean, Gabriel just ran down, the incredible list of players that LeBron has had to play against. Michael was playing against very good competition, but not at that level. He wasn't playing against super teams.
Yeah.
LeBron has played against super teams, especially in the Warriors.
Yeah. But anyway, enough with that. Here's a rundown of LeBron's stats and awards. Averaged 27.2 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 7.3 assists, 19-time All-Star, 4-time champion, 1-time scoring champ, 1-time assist champ, 19-time All-NBA, 6-time All-Defensive, 1 Rookie of the Year, 4-time MVP, and 4-time Finals MVP. So, yeah, it's a lot of awards.
And at the age of 38, he averaged just under 29 points per game this year. And they're probably going to lose to the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals, but he got them back there. He got the Lakers back again. So we just feel like he's done it for longer than just about anyone. And we stand by this list.
Yes.
And you can definitely feel free to disagree. We'll be happy, and please put your comments below.
Yep.
So, Gabriel, you have anything else to follow up with?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we hope that you've enjoyed this video. We know talking about the NBA is a little bit of a departure for us, but if you enjoy this, definitely please remember to give it a like down below, and we'll be back again with another video. Thank you very much. Be well.